In this video, we're back to our mechanical adventures. What will they lead to? Well, using our head and setting head inevitably leads to a problem. What the f? Of course, for every problem, there is a way to fix it. And what will we be figuring out, folks? Well, you have to wait and find out for yourself. So we're on our fourth video of Mr. Headbolt here. And in the previous video, I showed assembling and then installing the pistons. Of course, I didn't actually show myself installing the pistons though, so it's kind of the reverse shot here of me assembling them, and now we're going to install them. You can see I've already got cylinder 5 piston installed there. So these are pretty basic. Remember what I said, these are the old rods if you watched the previous video. And this is an IPD kit, so new piston skirts, new piston crowns, and using a cast piston ring compressor here. I do need to get a Monaco one. The one I have here is someone generously sent me. It is a overseas one, we'll say, and it's not as smooth as I'd like. So I have polished it, measured everything, but I believe an American-made one would just operate better. And once they got all those in, it was time to, of course, set the head. Now, I just bought these for setting the heads because it's always a pain. How do you get the head assembled? What do you use? Well, these are supposedly rated at 1,800 pounds each, 3,600 pounds combined. Now, would I set a completely assembled C15 on two of these? Probably no. But would I set a cylinder head on it? Yes, which that weighs about 450, 500 pounds. So okay, so I have done these heads before. Get the manufacturer on it, and I think it has a label. No idea. Anywho, they always have these purple straps. These are quite useful. I like them a lot. It also helps you get the head out of the crate a lot easier because it already has lifting straps. So let's pick it up. So using the gantry crane here to get this head out of the crate. And yeah, it's not electric or anything. It's got a 12-foot width. It does go up to 12 feet high, but I usually leave it at the lowest, which is 9.5 feet here, which will suffice on this easily. And luckily they got the purple lifting straps. Makes getting it out of the crate a whole lot easier. So the stands worked fine. I had the head on there. No creaking or nonsense. They're not that bad either. I think they're $70 each or something. I don't think I'd put a C7 on one of these. Maybe that'll be a video for one day. Anyway, yeah. So we need to get our plugs in. If you miss this plug and you put the head on, well, let's just say you can't put it on after. I always trouble myself with how to properly lift these heads because there's not a good pick point. I usually use like a bunch of clevises, but I was thinking since he's replacing his rocker shafts, these are pretty freaking strong. Why don't I use a rocker shaft with the bolts as a pick point? And then I'll use this. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's very level. I mean, it's probably I don't know, 3 degrees tilted that way. I could play with this a little bit if I wanted to. I could put these first. If I put these first, put that on top, that would actually tilt it slightly up more. I might do that. And then, yeah, ready to put her on. Well, gotta put these plugs in first. I'm gonna put the cam on after because we're waiting on it from Peterbilt. And she's ready to go. So I did that. I moved the straps around. Yeah, the head was actually perfectly flat. And what I'll usually use is a little chain tensioner or come along to get the front of the head slightly higher. There's I don't know what the degree is, maybe 10 degrees, 6 degrees slant on most truck engines where the front of the engine is slightly higher than the rear. And I think the reason is the transmission has to, output yoke of the transmission has to face the differential. And it also helps the transmission stay under the cab. So yeah, we're just using it here. And I think technically you're not supposed to move weighted items on the crane, but I mean, it does have wheels for a reason, right? So what I'll usually do is go very slowly. This is sped up, obviously, folks, but go very slowly and just move it. Make sure you're not caught on a rock or something. It's best with two people if you can get it. What you really don't want it to do is get the center of gravity outside of the feet of the crane. So once it's over the engine, though, that's where it's easy. The crane, you can slide it right in, and then the chain fall makes it easy. It's hard to tell, but I've got two alignment studs in the middle of the engine block here. So once the head, yeah, you can kind of see them. They're between cylinders 3 and 4. They're just head bolts, not off this engine, but 2 head bolts I've had for a long time with the heads cut off. And what it does is it protects the head gasket from damage and from any of the water frills or anything getting out of the way. Because what you'll do is you'll get 2 of the head bolt holes aligned and in there, and then you slide the head on. That'll also make sure your angle and everything's fine. See, the front structure makes it a little tight. You can see the small chain running right by my right arm there. That's the come along chain. So what I'm doing here is just aligning it. Make sure, there we go. Look at that, slid right on, perfectly aligned. You can see the plug in the front. Make sure you don't forget that plug. I know many people that have, but there you go, she's set. Now usually it'll set and then you have to wiggle it a little bit and then it'll pop on the dowels. There's 3 alignment dowels. There's 1 in the rear, 2 in the front. One of the front ones is also the oil supply to the cylinder head. But what I'm doing here is shaking a lot because it's not sitting on the rear dowel. It will not. A little frustrated here, folks. So, head is on there, as you can see. I can't get the stupid head to sit on the rear dowel, which is beyond frustrating. I've actually picked it back up now twice. Nothing's wrong with the dowel. It's on the head gasket fine. It's like the hole is drilled out or something incorrectly on this stupid head. I don't know what's going on. I haven't had one do this to me before, so it's kind of pissing me off. I've perfectly dropped it level. I've put it rear, for whatever. It will not set in the rear. You can shake it. Nothing happens. It's just freaking stuck. I don't know. I'm going to pull it up and inspect it. I don't know what the heck's going on. It's really frustrating though. Okay, so we got the head off here again. And first thing is, this is out of the IPD kit and this is their head gasket. I don't like how it folds up. Do you see how it's ticking up? Every cat head gasket I've ever had doesn't do that. It lays flat. I don't know if that's just a one-off for this. The other problem is these oil funnels, they're not a good fit around the head gasket. They actually slightly overlap unless you're very careful. So I don't want those to get pinched either with the head gasket on top or below the oil funnels. So not real happy with that. They could work on that maybe a little bit more. This is our alignment dowel that is giving us the problems. The dowel is fine. It's not damaged or anything. I even wiped it off, put a little sandpaper to it. No problems there. This is the dowel bore. You can see I put a little copper anti-seize there. I don't know why it's doing that. It's not radiused at all. It's a flat machined dowel hole bore. So that is, I don't know. The dowel is tapered, so it should be falling in there, but it's not. So what I did is I picked the head gasket back up and I measured the dowel because something is wrong. And the dowel measures at 0.384, which is basically exactly a 3/8 drill bit here. Okay, so it is the same size as this drill bit. Will the drill bit fit in the bore though? No chance. So yeah, the bore is, I don't want to say the wrong size. It's close. There's got to be a ridge or something's inside that bore that is causing it to not fit. So let me drill that out with the same drill bit and hopefully it'll fit on there. Okay, so I took a piece of sandpaper to the dowel just to smooth it out. I also drilled this frickin' bore with this drill bit and guess what? Actually fits now. So let's see if it'll set now. So yeah, the bore was actually the right size. It seemed like there was a ridge in there about, man, maybe 1/4 of an inch of the way in. So that's what was causing it. Obviously, it sat fine because I'm torquing it now. And if you remember, you can set the head with the cam in, but we didn't have the camshaft yet at the time the head came in here. Luckily, with the radiator and cooling package and hood off, we can just put it on after. I did put all the plugs and a lot of the stuff. I'm always conflicted on how much to put on the head while it's off the engine. It's harder to put stuff on after it's on, but then again, I like getting the head on as soon as possible so the engine's not open for as long. And we're torquing it here with our, I believe this is a gear wrench, torque wrench, but this is the 330 foot-pounds. And yeah, it was a nice warm day to be doing this, humid here, but luckily we're in the shade. Getting it torqued. I believe the final torque here, yeah, you torqued to 200 and then 330, 330 again. And your head is torqued. How about a little destruction of the week? This week's destruction of the week comes from a Series 60 Detroit, and yeah, liner's crack. What happened? Well, apparently they oversped the engine going down a hill, which dropped the valve, which dropped in the cylinder, destroying and cracking the liner. You could say the head is not in the best of shapes, but also, yeah, the piston. Unfortunately, I think they said it got to 2,900 RPM, which seems pretty fast, but yeah, thanks for showing the pictures. Let's get back to work. So we got to put the camshaft in here now. Like I said, usually you end up putting the camshaft in before you set the head because usually you have the cooling package on. And luckily you can pull the head with the cam in. Obviously you have to pull the cam gear and stuff out. But what I'm doing here is lubricating the cam bearing holes. Now, that little bore in the head was quite frustrating, but I've put these heads on before and I haven't ever ran into that. I've never ran into it with a cat head either. So I'm not saying these are bad heads. What I'm saying is this was just one problem. Everything else actually with the head didn't have any problems. All the pedestal mounts were fine. The cam will go in here easily. Everything else was lined up. It's just one machining ridge or something inside that dowel bore. I will definitely check it next time. I haven't had one hang up on me like that before, but was quite frustrating. Luckily, we were using the gantry crane, so that made it actually quite easy to pick the head back up and check it. But yeah, what we're doing here, as you can see, I'm lubricating the cam. A couple things I do like about these aftermarket cams. They do come with the lifting straps. That is nice. They come with the plugs. I wouldn't say the plugs are the same quality as the cat plugs you'll be pulling out of the old head because it doesn't seem like a metric or standard is the right size for most of the plug Allen wrenches, which is kind of weird. But they do give you the plugs. Cat doesn't give you any of the plugs. Also, they do not coat the heads in 4 gallons of Cosmoline like Cat does. So you're pretty much ready to set the head on other than installing your plugs and sensors. So that is a big plus. I'm assuming the heads cost a lot less than a Cat one too, but you know, that's really up to you. So what I'm doing here is I use a strap to kind of hold the camshaft up because you have to hold it. You can't just ram it in with a hammer, obviously. You don't want to damage the camshaft or the cam bearings. So what you have to do is kind of balance the camshaft and then slide it in bearing journal by bearing journal. It's quite difficult. There is a guide. It's on my tool list, but it's basically an aluminum cam journal that bolts on the end of the cam to help slide these in a lot easier, but it's very expensive. I'll be getting it one day, but that day is not today. So yeah, cam's in. Time to put the cam gear set on and then do some overhead adjustment. Look at that. And you can see I already got the injectors in also. Torque those. Look at that beauty. So yeah, cam gear's in. See, I already installed the overhead as well. This one lined up perfectly. Check the backlash. It's just over 14 thousandths, so that's perfect. You have between 4 and 24 thousandths. 14 thousandths is your spec. We have 10 thousandths variance either way. Generally, I like to be a little looser than tighter on that side also, but 14 thousandths if I'm adjusting it. Now, one thing the customer did opt for, and I'm very happy with, and usually you should, I would say, if you're replacing a C15 head, is the pedestal rocker mounts here. So a lot of times, these wear into the head, as you can see. That's where the rockers sit. There you can see the little oil fill holes there also. But do you see right there? That's around that big bolt hole, the 1/2-inch bolt hole, heavy wear. And that's very normal in a C15 or 3406E because these bolt into the head and then your rockers are constantly moving. And a lot of people don't replace them, but they wear, and if you put these on your new head, you're probably going to have accelerated wear on the pedestal mounts on the head. So if you're going to replace your head, it's a good idea to replace these rocker shafts. These are actually not even CAT. I don't believe they were, I forget the name is McCormick or something. Not the Spice companies, I don't think. Time for overhead adjustment. Critical on an engine rebuild. But yeah, we're set on TDC 1 here. So we're doing our adjustment. Start on 1, intake exhaust, intake exhaust, intake exhaust. I don't know how many overheads I've done, folks. Many of them. It's quite easy on a rebuild because you usually have the spacer plate out of the way, or the valve, not the spacer plate, sorry, the valve cover base out of the way, which obviously this one is. So everything's clean, everything's just assembled. So that is usually the best time to do an overhead, folks, opposed to, I could probably do this whole overhead during the engine rebuild in, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. Whereas if someone asked for me to do an overhead for them, it might be 3 or 4 hours. Of course, you have to remember you have to pull the valve covers. The valve cover base is in the way. Nothing's set. Nothing's really clean. So it's kind of funny during a rebuild, a lot of the stuff that people will pay hours and hours for, you end up doing very quickly just because you're doing it all at once. Not only that, you're already set up and you know what you're going to be doing next. At least you should be. You should be planning out what you're doing next while you're doing what you're doing. It's a mental game, but it really saves you a lot of time and can save the customer quite a bit of money if you're doing it while you're thinking what you're doing. So overhead went fine. Time to put on the valve cover. C15. I actually had to drill out 5 of the holes for the valve cover gasket bolts because they were stripped the heck out. Very common. So this is kind of our stopping point, folks. Unfortunately, got the oil paint on, but was going to put the manifold on, and it's not flat. With a straight edge, you can see light across it. A couple other problems with it is the sealing flanges towards the head they're worn, folks. I mean, this happens over time. Could it reseal? It's possible. You could machine it, mill it, get it to work. These are quite expensive. He is lucky he doesn't have any leaks on the manifold joints here, but probably the biggest problem with this manifold is part of the mount for the nut is gone. Looks to me like someone had a seized nut or bolt, took a torch to it probably. Doesn't look like a grinder to me, probably a torch, and just really took out a big chunk of that manifold. So unfortunately, the customer is waiting on the new manifold, but that is it for this one. Hope you enjoyed the video.